Okay, folks. So now that we have our actual podcast file created and in SoundCloud in Wooshka, um, what we have to do next is actually create the page, okay, that stores each individual podcast file. So I'm going to show you what it looks like on our site, LCF Now. And once we come here and we click on the Messages tab, this is what each individual represented page looks like. So you see the actual meme file that sits over the top of the title of each particular message. Now, if we were to go inside each, or if we were to go inside one of the messages, you'll see the basic layout of how each page looks. And what you're going to see here is you have a title, you have a description, you have the actual meme file, okay? Then you have an option to download the sermon notes. And I'm just going to go ahead and reload the page here real quick so we'll see the actual SoundCloud. Good. All right. So your actual podcast from SoundCloud. Uh, the next thing we have is the actual sermon outline, which is basically copied and pasted directly into each web page um, as we do them during the actual services. Okay, so uh, I believe it's like 6 or 7 different elements that we have to take a look at for each page that we create. Okay, again, title, description, a downloadable PDF file, which is represented by this button here. You have your meme file. You have the SoundCloud podcast MP3 file, the sermon outline, and then we're going to play around with a little bit of the formatting in just a bit, and I'm going to show you how each one of those elements works. So let's go ahead and head into Page Cloud. And when you first sign into Page Cloud, this is what it's going to look like here. So we're going to go ahead and select ALCF test, which is actually ALCF now pointing to our site represented in the Page Cloud platform. Okay, so once we're in here, the template that we're actually looking for, since this is a Sunday morning, is going to be a sermon template, which is at the very bottom of the page. But just wanted to point out that at the top of the page, we have a Bible study template as well. So just note that depending on which service that you're actually producing the podcast for and the web page for, you'll need to make sure that you take a look and grab the appropriate template. So let's go ahead and scroll down to the bottom here, and we will see the sermon template. So what we're going to do anytime that we go ahead and we produce a new page using a template, we are going to duplicate that page. In order to duplicate it, we click on this little gear here at the bottom that gives us more actions, and then we select duplicate. And Page Cloud will either open this up in the exact window or it'll open up a new page, depending on how you access Page Cloud. So anyways, this is what our template basically looks like. And once we come into the new page, we always want to make sure that we hit the escape key on the keyboard. Okay, what that does is you'll see by default you have a couple of different um, elements that are highlighted, and you'll note it by the little circles here that's around it. Okay, so what we're going to do is hit the escape button, and that deselects uh, all of the elements that are on the page. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to change the title first. So anytime that we click on an element, we select that element just by clicking once, left click once, and then in order to get into a text element, we're going to go ahead and click again. All right, so now we have the entire thing selected, or excuse me, now we have the cursor blinking on the inside here. We're just going to select the text that's already there since it's already pre-formatted with the railway uh, uh, Google font. Okay, it's selected by default. And then what we're going to do is we're going to type in here the title, and it's "You Have to Love People." Okay, so coming back here. Okay, so we got our title, and we're going to drop down here again. We click. Let me just do that one more time. We're going to deselect that. Click it once to select it. Click it again to go inside the text window. We'll select everything within that text window. Then we're going to come over to SoundCloud, hit edit. We're going to copy and paste directly from here, or we can copy and paste directly from the podcast tags uh, file that's located inside the uncut sermons folder. Okay, we can copy and paste that there as well. Uh, since I got it already, I'm just going to go ahead and drop that in there. Okay, so once that's done, what you'll notice here is this uh, this menu here actually gives us options to change the fonts in some sort of way and to change the formatting. And you'll know that you're actually inside that text window once this appears on screen and the sidebar menu goes away. So what I'm going to do is hit exit. Sidebar menu comes back over here, and now we just have the text window element still selected here. So I'm going to hit escape, deselect, okay, and then we're going to drop in our meme picture. Now the meme picture needs to be uh, 336 pixels by 336 pixels. Usually I strive to make these things a perfect square just because it formats well for the page. So I'm going to go back over to my folder here. We're going to take a look inside the miscellaneous pictures folder. Now I already pre-formatted this particular picture, so I know it's not a perfect square three at 335 by 336, but it is close enough, and it's negligible once you actually see it on the page. So I can either drag and drop this directly in, like so, and then move that picture around and place it wherever I want to place it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down just a tad bit, and I'm going to show you this. By default, this and your title will, excuse me, this and your title are going to, um, uh, they're going to need to be moved back because everything in here, each of our elements sort of works like a collage. So, just like inside of PowerPoint, when we start stacking elements together, certain ones are going to hide other ones. So right now, since this is the most recent object that we've put onto the page, it's going to hide, or it's going to cover most of what's on the page here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the other picture here. We're going to get rid of that, and then I'm going to put this one sort of in this area here for right now. And what you're going to see here is that if I scroll down just a little bit, I'm going to widen this out just a bit too, so this is a little easier to see. But what you're going to notice here is that as I move this picture around, okay, you're going to see special formatting, um, arrows and lines start to appear. And those are just basically showing us the alignment for every element that's on the page there. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to change this just a bit so that this formats correctly. Uh, Because you see the margin here is a little bit different than the one on the opposite side. Okay, so you just got a short amount of space here. So what I'm actually going to do is change this on the fly. I'm going to grab this by one of the bubbles that's in the middle of this text element, and I'm going to drag it until it's about even with the opposite side. So now this particular text element, it should be centered on the page, but I just want to double check it. There is a shortcut to center each of your elements on the page, and what you do is you hit the A and C buttons in that order. So if I hit AC here, you see that line sort of flash down the middle there, and that perfectly centers whatever element that you have. Okay, so now that that's centered, I'm going to scroll back up top here and grab the picture that I just imported, and I'm going to make sure that it is aligned not only with this side edge here, but also with the top part of our description. All right, so you see this top line here, if I move it inward and like that, you'll see it go bold once it's perfectly aligned there along that edge, and then it'll go bold again once it's perfectly aligned along the margin. Okay, so it's in place now, and we can just drop it there. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to change our downloadable PDF of the sermon outline. So we'll go back into Dropbox, and we're going to grab that file here. Okay, and what we're going to do is I'm going to click and hold on to this file. I'm going to drag it over the top of the button here. Now, if we hold down the shift key, it will do a direct import, and it's going to ask us if we want to replace the attachment, and we're going to click yes. And what we're going to see here is if I put my cursor over it, in the bottom left hand corner here, you'll see that the name of the file should be siteassets.pagecloud/alcf test downloads, and then it's going to give you the title of the actual PDF file, and you'll know it's been uploaded correctly if when you put your cursor over the button here, that it comes up and it gives you the correct file name. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and do the import for SoundCloud. So I'm going to go ahead and select the SoundCloud that we have there already. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Then I'll go back over to SoundCloud, and I'm going to click share on the appropriate file, select embed, and then the actual embed version that we want is this this thinner version here, the one that's right in the middle. So if we select here and copy it, come back over. Now before we get ready to copy and paste this in, what we're going to do is hit the escape button. So to deselect anything else that we may have had highlighted already, and we're going to go Control V if you're on a PC, or Command V if you're on a Mac, and it imports our file and drops it here. Now, okay, not doing it. It's all right. Let's come back. We'll try that one more time here. Click share, embed. Okay, so now it gave a preview here. I guess we had to wait for the preview to actually come up. So we're going to copy and paste this here and come back. Hit escape, deselect all, good. Click in that window one more time and then paste directly in. Okay, we'll know it was correct because now we see the actual image, or a similar image to what we saw in the preview. So now we're going to drag this into place sort of the same way that we did with the picture. Make sure that we have both of the both of the lines, both on the vertical and the horizontal axis, to make sure that we are squared off. Then we'll select the inside bubble here, and we're going to drag that all the way out until we are even with this here. All right, and we're going to reformat this. Okay. All right, so we want to make sure that this is nice and rectangular, but that it's framed within the guides that we had established before. Now, since we have more space here than here, I'm just going to move this up. I'll hit escape first, make sure that this isn't selected while we try to move this. And then I'm going to select this. Okay, it's been highlighted. Now we're going to drag this up. Now, this line down the center here is indicating that it's right square in the middle of the picture, but we don't necessarily need it to be there. I'd rather format it to where it is a little bit closer to this paragraph so that the same amount of space is in between it and the actual embedded podcast file. So we should be good here, and we'll hit escape again, deselect, and now we have to move on to the formatting of the sermon outline. Now, when we go to this portion, it works just like the description. We're going to copy and paste directly from our pre-selected file. So we're going to come back over here, and this time we're actually going to open up the PDF file that we created while we did the creation of the notes. So let's open that up. And once this opens up, we're going to copy and paste the body of text into this window down here. Okay. All right, so we have our PDF file here, and once we click in here, our cursor is going. That's good. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and grab it. We're going to grab it from here. We're going to select. Actually, I could drag this all the way down, but I'm going to cheat here. I'm just going to go ahead and copy all by hitting Control A or Command A. All right, so we've got everything here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to copy everything that's there. I'm going to come on over. Now, if you'll notice, the actual title from what I just pulled in wasn't the exact same as this particular podcast, but I'm just doing this to kind of demonstrate the process. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and I'm going to click in here. Just make sure that that cursor is blinking. Our sidebar menu went away. So we know that we are actually inside that text element. And I'm going to hit Control A here, select all, or Command A if you're on a Mac again. And what we're going to do is we're going to paste what we copied directly in here. Now, we're going to have to change the formatting here. Okay, so we're going to select back in here. I'm going to get rid of some of this. We don't need this portion here. So I'm going to highlight that and click delete. And we're going to bring that up. Okay, so if I do Control A here and then select font, I'm going to select the railway. Then for the size, we're going to go 18 pixels. Excellent. Then for the main portion of text, we're going to make sure that that gets bolded. Now, Okay, so we have the window. I'm going to click in here once more. Okay, so for this main portion of text, what we're going to do is we're going to slide this down, and we're going to bold this after highlighting it here. We're going to bold it. Now, one of the things that we also need to look at in this particular portion of text is once you copy this over, we have to make sure that it doesn't justify all of the text to the right, the center, or the left hand side. We're going to do completely justified text. Okay, so in order to do that, once we're in here, we're going to select all. Okay, Control A, and then we're going to click the justify button here, and everything centers out, or it doesn't center, but it blocks the text so that it will appear a certain way, especially when we look at this on the desktop side. It's going to appear a certain way so that uh, the paragraphs flow together a little bit better. And now that we have that done, we're going to hit escape here. And what we have is some of this text is actually run through. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to move this without disturbing this particular text box. But in order to do that, I'm going to switch views here, and I'm going to go into the mobile view by clicking down here. Okay, so this is what we have in our mobile view for the actual sermon notes. What you'll notice is that usually when you copy and paste text in here, uh, the view from the desktop to mobile, sometimes when you copy it in here, it will not change. So what we have to do is we have to actually go in there and reformat that. Sort of the same way that we did with the other text by selecting inside the box, inside the text element rather, and then making sure that we select the font, railway, size, switching to 18 pixels. Okay, so that fixes that. We can also bold it here, clicking the B. So that fixes that for that particular portion of the text. But I'm not going to do the entire thing. I just wanted to go ahead and demonstrate that for us real quick. But here's the more important part. Now, when we scroll to the bottom, I just want to show you the difference between the two here. If I switch back to desktop and we look right in this area here, you're going to see another text element that denotes our previous message and one that denotes our next message. Those are at the bottom of each of the pages for our podcast. And we also have a banner that runs along the bottom of the page that gives our contact information, address, what have you. So these two elements, the text that's here and the actual banner that runs across the bottom, these two elements are not seen in the mobile view. They're actually hidden. So if we scroll back to the bottom, the only thing that we have here is the previous message and the next message. What I'm going to do is I'm going to perform a function that's called swipe down, where if we select this button here, okay, or we just put our cursor over it, it changes to this sort of squeegee sort of thing. And if we click and we drag this, okay, all the elements that are either even with, okay, or below will be pushed down on the page. Okay, so I'm going to move this down a bit of a ways so that when we reformat the text that's above it in this area here, and it gets larger, so it's we're going to do that so that it will allow some room for that text to kind of flow down. Okay, But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to switch back over into the desktop mode here in just a minute. And I'm going to show you the importance of making sure that we use that swipe down function there as well. But let me go ahead and do this first. So I've clicked inside the text element, and what I'm going to do is Control A. I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to go back and select the railway font and do it twice here because it uh, took it off the first time. Okay, and do it twice again on this text as well. All right, so now if we scroll back to the bottom here, what you'll notice is that we didn't allow enough room here. Okay, so I'm going to do that same squeegee function. I'm going to swipe down. I'm holding the left button on the mouse as I do this so that it's like a click and hold so that it'll allow us to do this function here. Awesome. So now it's perfectly spaced out here. We're good to go. And we're good to go in the mobile version of this for the sermon outline portion. Now, what you will notice is that a couple of these other elements are out of place. We're going to come back and fix those in just a second. But we're going to take a look at this function for the swipe down in the desktop version. So we're going to click and hold there, slide it down, and we're going to drop it right about there. All right, awesome. So now all the formatting for our desktop page is done for the most part. We are going to change one last thing here, which will also be represented in the mobile version of the site. We're going to make this a clickable link because we do want to link between our messages on each of the pages. So we are going to highlight the text. Okay, then from there, we're going to go to the link button right here in our menu, select link, and then we are going to select the previous message by scrolling down. So if our most recent one was 10:30, 16 a.m., we're going to select the 10:23 message and click OK. Now, by default, it will not change any of the other formatting for it, but it will give a link if somebody puts their cursor over it. We're going to make a couple of changes to that just to make sure that it's more noticeable on the page. We're going to select bold, and then we're also going to change the color of the text by selecting this, and then we'll go to more colors, and we'll give something more like a standard blue link. All right, which is the second blue in right here, and then click OK. That looks good. We'll go ahead and hit escape and deselect. Good. So now we have a clickable link that will also change shading once you put your cursor over it. And if we go into mobile, slide all the way down, you're going to see that the link is created, but the bolding of the text is not. So, oh, no, cancel that. And we're going to select this here. Now we're also going to, wait a second, I'm going to have to go back here. I'm going to hit Control Z here because that actually moved. There are certain times when you go and you try to click in this thing and say you've got heavy fingers and it slides off to the side. All right. The only thing we have to do is undo the last move that we made. So we would do Control Z or Command Z on the Mac, and it'll move it back to its previous position. You have to be very careful when you're going in and trying to select these text elements, because sometimes they do move just like that. And you know, we'll just go ahead and do Control Z, and it'll move it back to its previous position. All right, so I select here once, select inside. We'll do Control A to get the whole thing, or Command A, and we're going to bold this. Awesome. Hit Escape to deselect it. Escape again, deselect all elements on the page, and we should be good there. Now we're going to scroll up to the top here, and we've got a couple of elements that are out of place. Our actual MP3 file is out of place. If I click on that, I can drag that here, and we're just going to place that here for a second. We're going to manipulate our picture here. So we'll click on that, move it over. Now we're going to use that align center. Uh, we're going to use that align center shortcut again. So we'll hit AC. It'll automatically reposition it for us. Now I'm going to make sure that there's an equal amount of space here. And you see those double-sided arrows there above the title, below the title, and the picture. Um, and those indicate that there's an equal amount of distance there. So we should be good there, as well as before the description. And you see, we're good there. All right, so let's reformat this so that it has the same margin width as our other elements on the desktop, or excuse me, on the mobile device page. Okay, so everything is formatted correctly on the page now. The last thing we need to do is just make sure that these elements will appear correctly when they're when they're sliding up, or when somebody is swiping up on our mobile device and on our desktop. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm going to deselect everything that's here, hitting escape. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll this up, and you see how in this area here our top banner and the actual drop down menu. Okay, these are elements that are on the page as well, but you see how it scrolls over the top of them? So it hides part of the words here, and it'll hide part of the banner up top. What we're actually going to do here is we're going to bring these two things forward. We talked about how these web pages are sort of like collages. Well, we're going to change the order of our collage here. All right, so we're going to select this banner element, and we're also going to hold our control key and select, or command key on the Mac again, and select our menu element. And then what we're going to do is in our sidebar menu, select arrange and then front. And that will bring both of those to the foreground. So they are now over the top of our picture. They should now also be over the top of our podcast, which they are. They are sliding, or they are both sliding behind it. And the same thing with all the other elements that are on our mobile page here. So last thing we need to do is switch back over to the desktop and make sure that our top line menu will do the same thing. So see how the picture is right here, and also our SoundCloud file. We're going to do the same exact thing. Hit escape first, and then we're going to select our menu up top and select front from the arrange portion of the sidebar menu. And now they will slide behind, and we should be good to go. Ah, I stand corrected. We do have one more thing that we have to fix here. Now, there's quite a bit of overhang here on our page. So what we have to take a look at is see what other elements are here. There's probably some hidden elements that are here that we don't see. So what I'm going to show you here is how to take a look at that. I'm going to save this first, and we're just going to save this as a test sermon because we're not going to take this into production. Click OK. All right, so the last thing we want to check is see what other elements are here that may be expanding this page. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom here, and then I'm going to go into our X-ray, which if we click on the shortcuts button here and scroll through, there is, where are you? Okay, so X-ray mode. Command Option X for Mac. I'm not sure what it is for PC. I have to apologize for that. But what we're going to do is I'm going to do that command, and it's going to show me every element that's there. Now, I see an element down here that is hidden that I'm going to bring it, I'm going to swipe this up. Actually, let me not do that. I'm going to do Control Z on that. Okay, I'm actually just going to click and drag this element. I'm going to bring it back up here in this area here. And we see how that popped down to the bottom here. Okay, this element is hidden. So you wouldn't normally be able to see that anywhere else. So what I did was I clicked on it, I dragged it back up to the top here in where our menu is, and I'm going to go ahead and switch views again, and we should be good to go. All right, so now that we've done that, we'll just go ahead and click Save, and we are all set. Our page has been created. Now we can click View Live and see what it actually will look like once the finished product is there. And there we have it, folks.